right, welcome everybody. It is Paranormal Tuesday, and this is Mike from Sunspot and AmericanGhostWalks.com and See Another Side podcast. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Hallow week. And I know somebody that looks like she's having a fantastic Hallow week, and that is Wendy Lynn.
Whoa, hello.
Yeah, sorry. All right, let's jump into Wendy. There she be.
Yeah, it's Halloween. It's Halloween, and I'm celebrating.
All right, that sounds good. That sounds good. And I love the devil look, Wendy. It's a strong look for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It seems to just suit me, I guess, right?
Right. Right. So, okay, everybody out there in TV land, we're trying a new way of getting together tonight. So if something looks weird, let us know, because we're not in Skype. We're using a different method. So if something looks weird and we need to change back, just let us know. We'll have Wendy call back on Skype. In the beginning, Scott jumping in with the first. Hey, Scott, hope you're doing well. Victor saying an hola. Hola. Hope everything's going well in Texas, Vic. Mark Johnson, hi, folks. Mark, I believe we have.
Hey, Mark.
I believe we have a toast to you. So cheers.
Yes, we do. Cheers.
And hope everybody's having a good Halloween week. One thing about Halloween, first of all, it's my favorite holiday, right? Like, I feel as adults, if Halloween isn't your favorite holiday, what are you doing wrong?
Right. Everything.
Right. And so, hey, guys out there, we're trying a different way. So if Wendy looks laggy on your screen, let us know and we'll jump back into Skype. So just let us know if Wendy's looking laggy, and then we'll try something different.
Conversation is hard to, it's slow to respond.
Sure. Vic says it's freaking cold in Tejas. Oh man, you're breaking my heart, Vic.
Like 60?
It is disgustingly cold here in Wisconsin. It was 30 degrees when I woke up this morning, Vic. So whatever your Texas cold is, I would probably take it. Choppy motion on Wendy's side, but the audio is good. Wendy, why don't you call back in? I'm going to go on Skype and call back in and join us from there. And I'll entertain the miscreants until you come back.
All right.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks. Okay. Oh, I disappeared. There we are. All right. So now here's the thing. It is Tuesday night. We always like to talk about fun, weird stuff on Tuesday nights. And so this week we wanted to talk about like Halloween traditions that maybe we didn't know about in the past. And so because of that, because we're going to try new Halloween things, if you guys have a specific thing that you did for Halloween, we'd love to hear about it, because that's always something interesting that what families did for Halloween, I think. And, families are unique around the world, right? And around the country. So if you guys did anything interesting, you're like, oh my God, my family had the coolest tradition. That's something we love to hear about. So anyway, when I was growing up, we didn't really have anything specific in our family. The only thing that we really did is that my mother said, she used to say on midnight on Halloween, if you looked out your window and there was a moon, you could see a witch fly across the moon. And then when I was little, I was never old enough to actually see that. So I never did. But I have done the same thing with my daughter, because she's not staying up. I'm not letting her to stay up to, that late to see that. So it's just funny that I ended up doing the same thing. So that's the one kind of tradition I would say that I have continued from my family. Wendy, okay, there, she's back. Now, do you have any specific
Did you miss me?
Of course I missed you. Now, do you have any specific Halloween traditions from your family? You think anything that was a little different than the regular, or anything in particular that you would like to pass on besides the wearing of obviously the red devil bow tie when that time comes?
Well, I mean, this isn't an every year kind of thing.
Okay, that's just every once in a while.
No, we were pretty traditional. Pretty much stuck with the pumpkin carving and, you know, typical Halloween
All right.
pumpkin carving, drinking hot apple cider and eating tons of candy, but nothing super unique, I guess.
Okay.
All the great stuff that I love, though.
Right. So we were never a Bob for Apples family. I'll tell you that. We never did the Bob for Apples. My mom thought that was a little dangerous.
Oh,
So
unsanitary.
so we didn't bob for apples. She's like, "What? I'm not going to have my children." I think there was one family party where we bobbed for apples or something at my cousin's house, and I believe that was put quickly. The kibosh was put on it as when the 6-year-olds ducked their faces into the water. You can drown in 3 inches of water. Yes.
I never enjoyed that anyway.
Yeah, that was always more like that was the waterboard.
parties.
That was the waterboarding part of Halloween.
Yeah,
And specifically enjoy it.
right.
The thing, now, when I was like, okay, maybe we should talk about Halloween around the world. Unlike Christmas, Halloween isn't something that people celebrate around the world. I mean, in different places they do.
A lot of places do.
But it's not as like this idea, like, so everybody's got Christmas, that it was a Christian country. But not all the Christian countries have Halloween. And it's so there's a specific kind of Celtic festival, which is, a lot of that is what we celebrate today. And the origins of the word Halloween. It's funny. My wife asked me about this. She's like, well, where's the word Halloween come from? And so, hallow means sacred, holy, kind of things like that. And so November 1st is All Saints Day in the Catholic Church. So hallowed, let me say that's hallowed ground. That means it's a special sacred place. So hallowed is the idea of the saints are sacred and special. So All Hallows Eve this is the day before. Someone say All Hallows Eve. It's the day before All Saints Day is really what they're saying. All hallowed people, all hallowed souls. Because November 2nd then is All Souls Day, which is just for everybody, not just the saints. Like All Souls Day is for the people who were maybe not going to heaven on the first round. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So going in, so the first when the first time they shortened All Hallows Eve into Halloween is in the 16th century, and it's Scottish. So every time we say Halloween, we can say it in the Scottish accent, which is the greatest thing ever, which is all I'm going to do this week. When somebody's like, what are you going for Halloween? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I going for Halloween, laddie? What are you going for Halloween?
I think you know.
All right. And so every time you say Halloween, you can put on the nastiest, gnarliest Scottish accent you got, and then you'll be being accurate. And the 16th century is when one of the first times that they did it. Robert Burns, poet, everybody's like the Scottish poet, the most famous Scottish poet. He had a poem called Halloween in 1785, and he wrote that Halloween is thought to be a night when witches, devils, and other mischief-making beings are all abroad on their baneful midnight errands. And so that's how he described it in this poem, and that's kind of solidified what the people eventually would call the night before All Saints Day. Halloween was after Robert Burns' poem became really popular. So it was popular in Scotland in the 18th century, and then it kind of moved to everybody when Robert Burns became so successful. So we can kind of thank Robert Burns for
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob Burns, giving us Halloween.
Yeah.
One of the things why I like Robert Burns is I had a English teacher in high school, Mr. Lippert, and his wife was Scottish. And so he had taught over in Scotland for like 10 or 15 years at a boarding school. And so when he would read Robert Burns, he would do it in like a straight up, good sounding Scottish accent. And we'd all be like, yeah, this guy's awesome. Because he could read Robert Burns.
So now we know your muse, Mike.
That's right. Except when I do it,
You
I
loved him
sound
in Scottish voice.
when I do it, I sound like groundskeeper Willie. And he sounds like a proper Scottish guy, like he's properly was wearing the kilt. I mean, Scotland is also the time where people were actually doing the trick or treating for the first time, kind of. So, I mean, they did the wassailing, which is what you talk about in "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," right? We won't they want figgy pudding and they won't go until they get some.
Yeah.
That wassailing
all over that town.
Was something people did on Christmas time, and trick or treat in the United States was actually more of a Thanksgiving thing until like the mid 20th century than a Halloween thing. But in Scotland, even in like the late 19th century, they were doing this thing called guising. Guising, like a disguise. And so they they were doing disguising, and they were carrying around lanterns made out of scooped out turnips. And they were visiting houses looking for treats of cakes, fruit, and money. And so that practice of going in costumes was a traditional Halloween custom in Scotland. And then it became, eventually that came to America. But the thing is, our trick-or-treating kind of developed on its own, and then we took that Scottish influence and moved it to Halloween Day. But I thought that was interesting because I didn't realize that it was that Halloween, the word, and then our trick-or-treating costume comes from such a Scottish, like we're indebted to the Scots for that. And they were also pretty much the people who get like the bobbing for apples. That was one of their big ones too. Like they had a game called Duking, which you're like, oh,
really?
I played the Duking game. No,
how about that? But
their Duking game was about you retrieve something from a bucket of water using only your mouth. So, or you tried to
think it'd be a bucket of whiskey,
right? For the kids, well, even that 19th century, who knows? But the thing is, you dunk your face in there and come back out, and try to get it with your mouth. That is Scottish as well. So bobbing for like these traditional things, are very Scottish in origin. So what we think of as Halloween basically comes from the 19th century Scottish people. And so I thought that was interesting. And they even had the traditional Scottish form of divining one's future spouse is to carve an apple in one long strip, then toss the peel over the shoulder. And the peel would land in the shape of the letter of your eventual spouse's name.
That's cool.
But the idea, so this is now coming into with this idea that, like Mark just asked, the thinning of the veil between the living and the dead. So when Mark says, is there actual lore around the thinning of the veil between living and dead and Halloween, or is that just made up? You'd think I'd know that, but yes, that is absolutely a thing. And that's more of a Celtic tradition. Kind of like the Irish call the Scottish their cousins. I mean, because they all hate the English, basically.
And it's all, there's so much crossover.
Right. But so
going back,
So the Celtic traditions, which are from Ireland and from Scotland, versus the English traditions, which a lot of them are influenced by the Normans and the Germanic people versus the Celtic. And then, the English obviously came in, conquered everybody, and ruled over them for a long time.
Stole their holidays.
And took their holidays. But it's a funny thing, though, that this Celtic lore, this idea that you would dress up on Halloween as in some kind of costume, so ghosts wouldn't be able to know who you are. And the idea is during the harvest and we talked about this in one of our first episodes, I think, but this idea that like during the harvest season, when it's getting less and less light in the sky, then it's a liminal time, and the veil is thinning, and things from the spirit world can pass into our world, and so you don't have to be afraid of them, so they don't know and can't follow you home or whatever and bug you, so you can't get an attachment. Then you would dress up and you would put a mask on so they wouldn't recognize you. Because in not all traditions, like your ancestors aren't always happy in the afterlife either. And we'll get to a little bit more of that.
That's depressing.
Right. So you also didn't want an attachment or whatever, like, let's go home with him. That's my grandson. So yes, but that idea that this is the time, that's really a Celtic thought. And also, going on that, if we talk about Halloween around the world, before we jump into some of the next things I was thinking about, I want to, mention this festival that also happens in September. And this one isn't influenced by either the Celtic traditions or the Catholic traditions, like most of the other festivals we're talking about are. This Ancestors' Day in Cambodia is a 15-day festival that happens.
Oh my gosh.
Right. That sounds like a great part. Well, these festivals, right? It's like Oktoberfest, like all the festivals that go on in the Middle Ages and stuff that started always go on for a long time. Meanwhile, we have one day off work today. And, and that's if your employer, if you get 2 days off, if you get full Christmas Eve, then you really got something good. But I haven't had an employer that gave me Christmas Eve off ever. I think I only had like a half day. Like, oh, you got a half day on Christmas Eve. I'm like, thank you, sir.
Just like Scrooge. Yeah.
Right. Right? Can I put a little more coal in the fire? It's cold in here, Mr. Scrooge. So this Ancestors' Day, and the Khmer language or whatever, it's Pukum Ben, so Phum Ben, is a 15-day festival, and that's when the idea is the gates of hell open up. And so in their tradition,
Fun.
And it's kind of
my kind of
yeah, obviously you get the devil costume on one day, but the gates of hell, and open up. But the idea in this tradition, and it comes from a Hindu and Buddhist kind of tradition, it's like kind of where it mixes. And so if you think of Cambodia, it's like close to India, close to China, so the areas that these places are in Southeast Asia are by the centers of two of the great traditions, Buddhism and Hinduism. And these massive traditions are still going today. And so spirits in this might be sent to the bad place, like the TV show, like in The Good Place, based on the state in which they die. If a person dies while they're angry or suffering, they go to hell. And this belief makes the crimes of the Khmer Rouge. Whoever was writing about this, they were like, they were anti-Khmer Rouge. Obviously, if you've seen The Killing Fields, you know why. But so if somebody's angry or suffering, they go to hell. So if somebody's having a bad time, even if they're not at fault,
that's really sad.
That's a bad deal for that religion, So like that's it might have, so like just that's a rough one. And so this belief makes death does not provide relief for their victims. The suffering continues on to hell. So, but in this party, they can get out.
Super.
Right? So
okay.
This is, and so
that's their chance.
Yeah, that's their chance to leave hell temporarily and have less suffering. And so they leave special offerings of food for them. And then they do prayers for them. And so, some of the things they celebrate, They throw rice balls in the air. They throw rice into an empty field. And this whole idea is that you can feed the ghosts, and that'll make them happy, and they won't suffer for a little while. And this is unique to Cambodia. Now, there's a different festival in Taiwan in July, and there's a different festival in Sri Lanka. But this is the one that is close to Halloween. So in the harvest time in September, they have this holiday in Cambodia where they also try to take care of the dead. And funny enough, so this develops completely independently from the idea of purgatory, which is, so we're saying that people who suffer, people can suffer in hell, and you try to do something nice for them. But then in the tradition where we have Halloween, in the Christian tradition, in the Catholic tradition specifically, has this place called purgatory. So Wendy, you didn't grow up Catholic, so do you know anything about purgatory?
Just other than it's like a place where people are kind of awaiting their final fate or something.
So you go in there.
No, I don't know.
Okay, no, that's good. That's what I'm explaining. So with purgatory, what you do is, so you go to purgatory as a way to, like, you're not bad enough to go to hell, but you're not good enough to go to heaven. So you go there to kind of burn off your sins. And so you kind of, it's an in-between place. And that's one of the things of All Souls Day. So on November 2nd, that you pray for your relatives, because it's assumed that everybody's going to do some time in purgatory. And some Spanish theologian in like the 10th century was like, I estimate purgatory for the regular person between 1,000 and 2,000 years.
Does time have any meaning after that?
Right.
Like,
I'm not sure, but you can get away.
And are there other people there you can talk to?
Well, I don't know the rules of purgatory really, but I do know
That's what I want to know.
They have these ways of like cutting down your time at purgatory. And so
of course they do.
And one of them is like praying for the people on All Souls Day. So that, like, the Day of the Dead Day, that's the day you pray for everybody. And then you pray for your relatives and stuff like that they might have some kind of peace and everything. And I always thought purgatory was interesting because, like, a lot of the ways they develop purgatory end up being because these really smart people, so monks and stuff like that were really smart because they're the only people that can read in, like, the 4th century. They're trying to figure out what you do with the people before Jesus. They're like, okay, there were people before Jesus, so if they can't go to heaven because they don't believe, then what do we do with them? We can't send them to hell because they weren't bad people. We gotta find a place for them. Or like babies who die before they get a chance to do anything. They're like, well, they didn't get to be good, but they didn't get to be baptized. So what do we do with them? We have a place for them now. We have this place they can go where they're not punished in hell, but we're still not taking away the fact is you got to do good things to get to heaven.
Yeah. So those people, the purgatories, they get to come out on the party day?
Well, that's right. So
get a break from purgatory?
Relate to there's no break from purgatory, but that's these. So we talk about the All Hallows Tide is what they would eventually call it. I thought it was interesting that you'd have a culture develop a similar idea, one in Southeast Asia, specifically Cambodia, and then one developed in the Middle East, or the areas around the Middle East in like the 3rd and the 4th century, that they have these ideas of like, okay, well, what do we do with dead people that maybe were that good or that bad? And then you have a place for them to do it. And on days like Halloween, when you say prayers for the people, you get you yourself get some time off. So by doing something nice for the people already there, you get a little, and that's part of the Hallowtide, is what they called it. Like we have the Yule tide, the Christmas tide. They'd call it the 3 days. They call it the Hallow tide. And so this is, doing something nice for the people already who are in purgatory. Then you get a couple hours shaved off your time. I mean, I don't know what a couple hours is for 1,000 years.
Yeah, also that's kind of like, basically you're not doing it to be nice, you're doing it because you get something out of it.
Yeah.
you know, like bribery, like, here, do this because, not because it's the right thing to do and you're helping souls, like, because you don't want to be stuck down there for any longer than needed.
Right.
Or up there or wherever, floating in between up and down. I don't know.
Well, it's just but it's an idea to, I think it's a way that they could force people to remember the dead. And because the initial day of these All Saints, so the All Saints Day, the Hallow Day, came from the fact where the early church said that like martyrs all got their own feast day. And so in the early church, though, people kept on getting killed for being Christian because the Romans would like feed them to lions and stuff. And so they kept on making saints of all these people who were martyrs. Which, I mean, I guess maybe some of us whose mothers are eternally martyrs, you'd think they were saints already. But the thing is that so in the early church, all these people were getting feast days, and eventually they had too many people get killed, and they were like, look, we need to have a day for everybody. And so they created All Saints Day.
Yeah.
They created All Saints Day based on the fact that all of these martyrs, so that everybody didn't have to have their own day. And they're like, okay, so now we have one for the martyrs. We should probably have one for the regular people. And so then this entire 3-day thing becomes something special for celebrating the dead. And it was originally in April is when they were doing it. And then they moved it to Halloween time so that it would mix with some of the pagan Celtic traditions when they were already like, okay, this is the time we celebrate the dead. They're like, hey, guess what? We'll celebrate it too.
How convenient.
Right.
Right.
And it just goes to show how like a lot of the similarity in religions at their base. If you can find things that are like, okay, what does it take? You just want to celebrate this stuff in your time of year? Great. And that's why we have Easter is celebrated during the traditional fertility time, and Christmas is celebrated in the traditional midwinter solstice time. These things all get changed because they're just trying to, because people maybe don't care what they believe in or which particular god they're praying to, as long as they still get to have a party. And so I think they just wanted to keep the party going, and that's how they did it. And so that becomes the Halloween, the All Hallow Tide starts then taking the place of these days. And, I think this becomes particularly interesting as religions kind of assimilate more people and then they bring their different stuff to it. And that, especially because I didn't know about this one, but the Haitian festival of Fête Gede is their own Day of the Dead.
Oh,
and
cool.
So, we talked about Loas before. We talked about, and Loas are like the spirits that are all around us. And they're represented like Baron Samedi, the skull with the hat on, like he's one of these Loas. And you have Papa Gede, and he's the guy that meets you after you die. And people dress like him when it's like at funerals and stuff like that. If you ever seen a traditional New Orleans funeral, right? And so the reason I mentioned New Orleans there is because Haiti, like Louisiana, was also a French colony. And so it was that same kind of thing where you had the French with their Catholicism mixed with West African slaves who had brought over animism, the kind of the world is alive kind of thing, and they found a way to mix it up because they couldn't practice animism directly, but they found a way to bring that to the religion of the French. And so they have this party. So they have their own Day of the Dead, Fête Gaîté. And so obviously French, fête means
Party time.
yes, and Gaîté means dead. Oh, the sacred dead, not just dead, but the sacred dead. Sacred like hallow.
I'm not even.
So people dress up, they take to the streets, they dance, they walk in processions to graveyards where they feed, once again, they're feeding the dead with gifts of their own table. So now you have this idea of going to a graveyard and giving them food. That's the exact same as what they're doing in Cambodia for that particular festival. And once again, it's 3,000 miles away. And so you're honoring your spirits. You're getting protection for the next year. You're making sure your ancestors aren't upset at you for not paying attention to them. And so it's this idea, though, that the spirits of death and fertility, the Iwa, or is mixed with the spirits of death, are mixed with the spirits of the dead ancestors, along with the saints. And so the different characters,
everybody partying.
Yeah, the different characters from the West African tradition then join with the characters of Catholicism, and it just becomes a party where you're celebrating all the people who are gone behind. And I think that's something we really miss in our modern version of Halloween. Like, it's cool that we do the costumes and stuff like that, but I mean, we went to church on All Souls Day, I think. So November 1st, we always went to church, or All Saints. I can't even remember. But we would go to church on that day. But this idea that, having a party sounds like a lot more fun than going to mass to celebrate your dead ancestors.
Yeah.
And so, these ideas that, like in Haiti, which is basically the Fête Gaîté, is their kind of Mardi Gras. So there's drumming, singing, boozing, jokes.
Yeah.
It's, they sacrificing pigs.
I like how it says that in possession they will drink or rub themselves with a mixture of clarin, which is raw rum, and 21 habanero or goat peppers. That sounds a little rough.
Yeah.
Whether you're drinking it or rubbing it on yourself, that sounds harsh. That sounds burny.
Well, and Papa Gaede, the king of All Souls Day, the Festival of the Dead, he's supposed to be the representative of the first man who ever died. And he loves smoking cheap cigars and eating apples.
Just like the first man ever did.
Yes.
Right?
It's this idea. So the idea is that he's fair and just. So he doesn't make, like Baron Samedi, will make deals. Like Baron Samedi is more of a amoral character. He's more of a god that does not care about humans, as in we talked a lot before in traditional religions. This idea that God loves you is not always there. Gods, like the Greek gods, Zeus was out for himself. Zeus was out to get laid most of the time. And so this amoral character in these religions. And so Papa Gaede, like, he was supposed to be he's one of the good gods that cares about people. He wouldn't kill you before it was time. He would do your best to protect children. He was able to read people's minds, and he knows everything that happens. So he's omniscient in the way that he knows everything that happens in the world of the living and the dead.
Right. And he has a crude sense of humor.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, he even has...
And you're dealing with pretty serious stuff. You might as well...
Yes.
Might as well have a good sense of humor about it.
Oh, okay. So a couple of questions from the peanut gallery here. Mark,
Hey, all right.
you ever see the Western called Purgatory with Sam Shepard and Eric Roberts? I loved it. I have not seen that movie, but I will put it on my list.
Yeah, I haven't either.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I love Westerns. I love Purgatory. I mean, Lost season 6 is basically Purgatory. And it goes back to, it just tells us, it's like, hey, remember this thing we said wasn't Purgatory in the first season? We lied. Now, Vic, you said,
Oh, yeah,
are
just
they
Scott said
are they related
we
to
lost.
are they related to Ben? I'm not sure who you're talking about.
'Cause-
Oh, because they do shots at.
No, I think he was talking about the rum and the peppers. 'Cause
Oh,
Ben
Ben,
loves hot peppers.
and he loves rum too. Well,
There you go.
all of the voodoo gods love booze. Like that's their particular thing. Like voodoo, not necessarily voodoo gods, but the voodoo, the characters, the Loa, the spirits, the in the air, they do love voodoo. And so they love booze, and so that you're
Yeah.
always giving gifts of that.
Right.
But the Haitian Day of the Dead just seemed like a different. I had heard of it before, and in Haiti they have those above ground cemeteries too. That's more like that's a real French thing, or particularly French colonial thing, and so. And that is, I mean, the other place where they celebrate and they practice voodoo, which of course we talked about 1,000 times because we love voodoo, because it's interesting.
Voodoo.
Well, I think the idea of voodoo is interesting because you can become possessed by these spirits going around. And it's not a bad thing because while in possession, you can grant people wishes, you can help them. You can, the idea is to become possessed by the spirit so you can do something positive, so you can feel something spiritual, so you can have an ecstatic religious experience, almost like the people that speak in tongues. What's that called, Wendy? Xyloglossia or something? Didn't you read a whole blog article on it?
Oh, speaking in tongues?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
I've already
It's already
refreshed
gone.
it.
That is down
remember.
Wendy's memory hole. It's gone.
Starts with an X, right?
Xenoglossia, maybe an alien tongue. And so that idea, that is the ecstatic religious experience, and those are the people who do the voodoo stuff. That's what they experience, and so that's what makes it interesting, I think, because you have similar human traits, kind of thing, or things that we do across cultures. So you would not think that speaking in tongues, or like a charismatic Christian, like we were talking to Larry Roberts a couple of months ago, and he grew up in a speaking in tongues religion.
Oh yeah.
You would not think that the speaking in tongues was like a voodoo ceremony, right? But in the end, they're super similar because it's both.
Yeah.
You are letting yourself be possessed by something, to be taken over.
Right.
Like, I would always worry about that because if I get possessed by something, like, what if whoever possessed me made me piss my pants? Like, I just wouldn't want to do it. I'd be like, you can't make me, or...
Okay, I found...
Okay, when...
Right. I found the Xenoglossi blog post that I did indeed write. April 27th, 2019, so it was... Sorry, I just saw Vic's comment over what I was saying.
Of the rubbing habanero all over their bodies, just like Ben.
Yeah, so it's like channeling somebody through your human flesh meat bag. Channeling a spirit and then either talking or writing or somehow expressing their being through you. So, Xenoglossi. I'll put the link if anybody wants to learn more about. Oh yeah,
yes.
Mark just said it.
The thing with xenoglossi, though, it's this idea, and there is a Christian tradition of xenoglossi that comes from Pentecost, whereas after Jesus was going to be taken up to heaven and ascend, the apostles got the Holy Spirit through them. And so they were all shot through with the Holy Spirit. So
Ah, interesting.
And this is something that, like, this very like the Holy Spirit you find when you actually look into the nature of it ends up being very much like the namaste kind of thing. You know, I see something in you that I see in myself. And so the idea of the Holy Spirit is that everybody has a divine spark in them somewhere.
Hmm.
Um, and the thing that happens at Pentecost when the Holy Spirit flies through all these apostles or whatever, so they go out to convert people, that's that same kind of thing. You can be possessed by something. And so that then leads to the charismatic Christians speaking in tongues, which is very equivalent to the voodoo loa. You know, and when I was looking at different stuff about Halloween and everything, I did find something from the Catholic Church that I did not realize
Ooh.
was more hippity dippity than I thought.
Okay.
Okay.
What's that?
Well, one of the things you do on
Do tell.
All Saints Day and All Souls Day is you pray for the dead, and the idea is that the dead can hear you, and that God can hear you pray for the dead. And so they have a thing called the Communion of Saints. And so when I was growing up, we'd always say we believe in the Communion of Saints, the forgiveness of sins, blah blah blah. And you're always like, what the hell is a Communion of Saints?
Yeah.
And it's this idea that everybody in the church, living or dead, is connected in some way. So when you think of this idea of the life, and Jesus is at the top. So Jesus is a big guy, starts with God, and then it goes down. But every single member of the church is connected in some way. And if you're in hell, it means you're out of the communion of saints. You're done. You're away from the focus of God. Sorry, devil, Wendy. You're out.
That's okay.
Even
It's fun down here.
even if you're in purgatory, you're in the communion of saints. So this idea that the life force, it goes back to, I mean, a million different kind of people we've had in the podcast that just talk about the idea that we're all connected in some point. And this is our particular expression of our, unique life force, but everybody's connected on a level that's deeper than physical. There's a non-physical connection between every human. And so, like, you'd never think, Christian churches just never talk about that. It's only when you talk to some hippie or whatever, it's like, we're all connected, man. I just did some yoga and I can put my leg behind my ear. You know what I mean?
Well, also the connection of like the living and the dead too, since we're on the topic of Halloween and All Saints Day and Dia de los Muertos, where people, they think that's the one day that they can sort of invite back their dead ancestors and celebrate them, and they can cross the bridge from the other side into our world and like kind of check up on everybody. And so that's kind of a neat thing that this time of the year brings out all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun dressing up like zombies and skeletons and scary stuff, but like it's neat that there's these beliefs that people actually, use to celebrate their departed family, and it's kind of a fun way of doing it and a less melancholy way than just.
But the idea of celebrating your ancestors that goes in between, and everybody has chosen to celebrate this in a different way.
Yeah,
I think is really interesting. Like in Poland, they have a Zaduszki, which so on their All Souls Day, the day of prayers for the souls, they go to cemeteries, they light candles and pray for the souls of the dead, especially those believed to be in purgatory, and this has been going on for centuries. And so during the days of Zaduszki in the odd, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I am Polish, so I can butcher the language a little bit. And this is what I believe. Speaking of, my very Polish aunt just passed away this week. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is a sad thing. 95, though, good run. 95 is a good run. When I was growing up, she always used to wear, we'd go to a family party, she used to wear Solidarność, her Solidarity t-shirt, which was the name of the union in Poland that was fighting against the communists. But
nice.
And they would always do the protests and everything. And she'd been to the motherland a few times. But so they believed that during the days of Zadushki, the spirits of deceased relatives could visit their old homes by gathering near the windows on the left side of the main doorway. Eventually, it was believed they entered the house. They would warm themselves by the home's hearth and search for the commemoration meal prepared for them. And so before they went back to the other world, to wherever else, they would go to church for a special nighttime mass by whoever their priest was dead. So they would go back to their church to visit, and the priest would perform a ritual for, a ceremony for them, a mass.
Wow. Official.
That the living were not allowed to watch. So they had a secret mass, the dead had a secret mass with the dead for themselves. And I love that idea that the ghosts come back to Poland.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tell a couple of jokes. And then they have a secret mass for themselves. That
Interesting.
living people were not supposed to watch.
Yeah.
And so people would take care of the cemeteries during Zadushki. They would prepare the house for the visit, cover the floor with sand, leaving the door or window open, moving a bench close to the hearth. They would leave a dish of water, a comb, and a towel so the dead could wash themselves and comb their hair. I'm not sure what the sand was for, except maybe to capture footprints. So I think of it as some kind of medieval form of ghost hunting.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be cool.
They would bake a special bread, and they would either give them to poor children, or they would leave them on the graves. And then the children would just go up and grab them, and they'd be like, "I need some food. Dead people don't need food."
Yeah. Give me some candy.
Right. Some Polish they would believe that the more you gave, the more you would get in the coming year. And so they would do maybe 200 buns. They'd make 200 buns and put them in the cemetery or give them out. So the idea was the more you get, the more you give, the more you will get.
Good.
So, according to Polish beliefs, on Zadushki Eve, one had to go to bed as early as possible because you didn't want to distract the dead from the celebration of their day. And the remains of the commemorative dinner were not allowed to be removed until the morning. You couldn't take out the trash. All dogs remain on their chains that night, so they wouldn't go chasing after ghosts.
Whoa. Okay.
If someone needed to take out the trash or pour the water out next to the house, they'd say a special warning. Move over, soul, or I'll spill my water on you.
Ooh.
And you weren't supposed to whiten the oven or the walls of the house, so you wouldn't spray the dead with clay and lime. And I'd never heard of Zadushki before. So I thought that was super interesting that the Polish had this whole special thing for it.
It is.
And it almost makes me wish we'd have celebrated it in our Polish ass house.
Yeah.
And doing it. Because I think the Day of the Dead is a pretty cool thing. And
It is really cool.
I love the Mexican tradition of it. I mean, the Spanish tradition's on actually November 1st. So they do much of their dead stuff on the 1st. And then in Mexico, it's the 2nd. So Mexico is the traditional All Souls Day, while in much of the other Spanish countries, they do it on All Saints Day.
But they also take several days to celebrate. So, actually last year we were down in San Antonio during Dia de los Muertos celebration with our friends Vic and Margot, and they took us around the city, and there were all these amazing I think they call them ofrendas, where they're like little altars that people would make. So it was just really neat because you'd walk around and you'd see, there's an altar to someone's relative who was like a musician, and there'd be guitars and all the things that he liked, and then his photo, and it just kind of made you stop and reflect, like, oh wow, like each of these is a whole entire memorial to a person. But they're really beautiful, brightly colored, and just I don't know, I just think it's a really neat way to remember people and to keep their memory alive year after year. Well, it's fun.
Yeah, and also they've done is since Mexico particularly is such a mixture of the Spanish settlers as well as the
Hmm.
um, indigenous people that live there, is that they've assumed, much like we talk about how the West African tradition in voodoo, so voodoo is a mixture of traditional Catholicism and traditional West African animism. Um,
Hmm.
Day of the Dead is now a mix of where they brought in a lot of the indigenous traditions in ancestor celebration into it, and it becomes its own kind of thing. So no longer is it just like they say, you move the date. It's not just a copy of the kind of the All Souls Day or All Saints Day they did in Spain. Then it becomes its own kind of thing,
Yeah.
and so I think that makes it really fun because now it takes on its own kind of life and its own kind of party, where people do everything from have like you were saying, like what the person liked in life. You leave it on, they make it a little altar or a shrine in the home,
Hmm.
and then you do that, and so it's a way to honor the people that came before you and the people in your family, and everybody gets like a specific, you can make specific kind of things like, oh, grandfather like this, so I'm going to make this for him, and grandma like this, so we're
Yeah.
we're going to make this kind of food for them, and we're going to put this, like you say, a guitar in here for this person, and then so the Day of Dead becomes its own kind of special thing, where
Yeah.
you get to celebrate individuals in a great way, and not
Hmm.
just in church. Like I would love if we could
Right.
do, I would love if we could do the whole Hallowtide. Tell you the truth.
Mhm.
Like that's what I would like to do. I'd like to celebrate on Halloween.
Nice.
I'd like to celebrate All Souls Day. I'd like to celebrate All Saints Day. I think Hallowtide used to be an 8-day celebration. They called it the octave of Hallowtide or whatever. It was an 8-day celebration in the Middle Ages, and eventually it was kind of just turned to like all things. Like Christmas time used to be a 12-day party, the 12 days of Christmas, and now it's just like you get half a day off work, and then you
Yeah.
get one day, and then the next day you have to go back to work, and you're like, you look at your boss, and you're like, why do I hate you? Um, so I mean,
Yeah.
I think to find that all these different places celebrate the. So we want to think of Halloween. We think Halloween is a scary time, and not a time to necessarily celebrate the dead. But these come from.
It's true.
I mean, the reason that it's a scary time is because you have skulls and things associated with it, and then everybody's
Right.
dressed
Yeah.
up. Everybody's dressed up, and now horror movies are associated
Well,
with it.
and people play pranks, so especially like teenagers like to go and
Yes,
set things on fire and ding dong ditch and that type of thing. Throw eggs at houses,
right.
stuff like that.
But in
So there's that element of it.
but we tend, at least in a lot of American culture, we don't necessarily have something that is meant to celebrate our ancestors, at least not as detailed as where it came from. So if we're worried about like
Right.
keep the Christ in Christmas, let's keep the dead in Halloween. Let's keep the celebration of the people that came before us. Like I love monsters and stuff, but I love them all year round. I think instead of celebrating the evil part of monsters, we can celebrate the positive aspects of it, of souls and the afterlife, and whatever you believe. It's also nice to just remember the people that came before in a good way. And
It is. But it's also fun to think about that thinning of the veil and
oh yeah,
the fact that there's good souls drifting around, and then there's also the
right. There's
the
monsters.
scary bad ones, so it's kind of just a fun thing to think about.
It depends on which tradition you're interested. I mean, I love all of them. We should bring it. I mean, maybe not the Santa Muerte where they killed somebody this week. Oh yeah, that just came out today. They just like some dude.
What-
They found him on. First of all, I did not realize when we talk about the Loas in voodoo. You can also go into, and we've talked about this in the show before, this idea of people pray to Saint Death. in Mexico and some South American countries and Central American countries.
Yeah.
And so Santa Muerte, she is a female kind of Baron Samedi character, like a Papa Gede, that people will. The beginning of the third season of Breaking Bad, when the two brothers are crawling up to an altar with a like it looks like a Virgin Mary with a skull face.
Right. I remember
and
that.
So you leave money, tobacco, booze, the same kind of thing. I mean, it's basically a kind of voodoo ritual. But then I didn't realize there was also a San La Muerte, or San La Muerte, who is a male version of Santa Muerte. So a different figure who's a little scarier. Kind of like Baron Samedi is a little scarier than Papa Gede.
Right.
And they just had a story in the UK Sun today about a guy in Argentina who was actually sacrificed.
Oh my gosh, what?
So.
Sheesh. I didn't see that. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, and they call it devil worship, but it's not really the devil because it's Saint Death. So the devil would be a Christian idea. And this is more, I mean, San La Muerte. This guy, let's see, his name was Marcos Correa, and he was last seen on September 27th, reported missing by his family October 4th. They found him at a garbage dump 10 days later.
Oh.
And his heart was removed and his head was chopped off.
Oh no.
And so it was at a Saint Death, the San La Muerte altar that was set up there. And so this idea is, if you can, you leave a sacrifice for Saint Death, she or he will grant you some kind of reward. So the bigger the sacrifice, the bigger the reward. So a human sacrifice would be a big reward. A lot of drug dealers, like in Breaking Bad or whatever, do stuff to Santa Muerte. And so it's interesting to see a little bit of that old animistic religion kind of combined with more modern religions, turned into like this idea you have an altar towards your ancestors, and you're doing nice things. You put a shrine up to people that you cared about that are gone, and you make sure they don't feel left behind. It's a really cool thing. But then when the altar turns to, we might as well worship something all the time, and we should sacrifice stuff to it, then it gets a little into what I think people think of as a scarier side of, these kinds of things. So I just read that today, and I was like, okay, I didn't know there was a San La Muerte, and I don't want to meet him.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, we just wanted to talk to you guys a little paranormal chat, Halloween around the world. And also, we wanted to make sure that we showed you our brand new video tonight. So if you guys had not had a chance to see it, those of you who haven't watched it yet, we're going to give you another chance this evening because it is Halloween. And this is our Halloween video shot on a haunted location right here in Wisconsin last month.
Yay.
So if you guys have any questions about the video, let us know after you watch it. But first, we're going to jump in right before we go tonight to watch a little bit of I Don't Want to Be a Ghost.
To come back as a spirit and be in some romantic tragedy. I'd be Patrick Swayze and you would be my sweet Demi. But when I taught you couldn't hear it. If I materialized, you couldn't see. How could I be happy without some sexy pottery? If we can't be together, who wants to live forever when you're just looking right through me? If I will always be lonely, there's no point in eternity when I can see you looking right through me. I don't wanna be a ghost, I just wanna be a man. I don't wanna hear my friends when I cannot talk to them. I'll be right behind the wall and I'll wait for you to call my name. If I walked the earth as a phantom, I'd haunt every place we used to go. But what would I do with all these strangers in our home? And if every time I showed was random and I was just an orb in some photos, I'd rather be 6 feet beneath an old gravestone. What's the point of a soul if there's no one to make you whole? A spectral spectator that's born immortality. If we can't be together, who wants to live forever when you're just looking right through me? If I will always be lonely, there's no point in eternity when I can see you looking right through me. I'll just go to the light. I'll just go to the light. I'll just go to the light. If I can't see you tonight, then I'll just go to the light. If we can't make things right, then I'll just go to the light. If I'm out of your sight, I'll just go to the light. There's no reason to fight, I'll just go to the light. What's the point of a soul if there's no one to make you whole? A spectral spectator that's born immortality. If we can't be together, who wants to live forever when you're just looking right through me? If I will always be lonely, there's no point in eternity when I can see you looking right through me. If we can't be together, who wants to live forever when you're just looking right through me? If I'll always be lonely, there's no point in eternity. Yeah, I can see you looking right through me. I don't wanna be a ghost, I just wanna be a man. I don't wanna hear my friends when I cannot talk to them. I'll be right behind the wall and I'll wait for you to call my name.
Okay. That's a little bit of I Don't Want to Be a Ghost for you. Thank you
I love
guys.
the dance party at the end.
That is fun. That was fun.
It was.
And that's also, we did that at the Maxwell Mansion in Lake Geneva and put up some ghost stories about that as well as a little bit of an investigation. We did that night. Coming up for more paranormal stuff. Maybe we'll do a wrap up. Maybe we get everybody involved in that investigation for a Paranormal Tuesday. And we can do a wrap up with some of the footage we found of evidence.
Yeah.
I think might be. Actually, that would be fun. We can come up and talk about the evidence and everybody jumps on Skype and we have a Skype party. Okay, so anybody who is not a Patreon member and is watching, please make sure to check out our Patreon account. It's patreon.com/sunspotmusic. we are going to be having the... Wendy, did we decide which day for the Patreon hangout?
I think we're gonna go with Monday.
Okay,
We're just
Monday.
gonna extend that Halloween weekend one extra day and have our little costume party hangout on Monday night. I hope that works for most people. It was kind of hard to find a date because everybody seems to have a lot going on with the excitement
Right.
of the holiday.
Well, All
But-
Souls Day is absolutely perfect. So we'll do an All Souls Day party for you. And that is the end of the Hallowtide. So join us for
Perfect.
the
All right,
end of...
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Join us for the end of the Hallowtide, and we will have Halloween on the World for thing on Monday. Everybody hang out, talk about what you've been doing, your favorite costumes, all that kind of stuff.
Wear your favorite from the waist up costume. Bring
Yes.
your favorite Halloween candy or other treat or whatever you like. Bring some hot cider, maybe some hot cocoa or something like
I've
that.
already been candy indulging, Wen. I've already
Nice.
I've already been into the Reese's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's everybody's got their favorite, and that Reese's tends to be like the full ones. If you get the mini ones, it's fine. But I could fit
I'll take whatever.
I'll fit 2 of them in one bite.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Oh, looks like we've got some people coming to our concert on Saturday.
okay. And so Saturday's gonna be fun.
Megan?
Megan will be good to
Wait,
see
Megan
him.
said she said she's so hyped for Saturday. I shouldn't assume that's for our concert, but I'm also so hyped for Saturday.
Yes. So Saturday is gonna be
And I hope that she'll be there. That'd be cool.
an acoustic party at Old Brick Park, and so we are the next thing we're going to do is discuss our costumes right after this Patreon hangout or discussion. But then next Monday will be Patreon hangout. We got to rehearse, so no Thirsty Thursday this week, because we got to make sure we sound good because we have not actually rehearsed since
Been a bit.
March. Like the first Thursday in March was the last time we rehearsed. Yeah. So it's been a while. We've played together, but that was all jamming,
yeah.
baby.
We have all kinds of stuff to work on that we've only
Yeah.
worked on separately from our quarantine areas.
It's very different.
Fun to play. I can't wait. Nothing beats playing together live.
Oh, Megan, thank you. Yes, your concert. We look forward to seeing you in person.
Yay! That's awesome.
And everybody that watched I Don't Be a Ghost, thanks everybody for sharing that and all that kind of stuff this week. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have more from the Maxwell Mansion coming up, so there will be a lot. There will be more fun stuff there. Everybody out there, we will see you next. Well, we'll see all the Patreons on Monday for the Halloween party for our
Yay.
All Souls Day Festival of the Dead. Dia de los Muertos. Shit, I always say it wrong. I'm working on my Spanish, but the Day of the Dead.
Good.
We're going to have a Day of the Dead party with you guys on Patreon.
Yes.
And costumed up. Don't need to
have a
sound
fun
good when you look
Halloween.
good. I'll keep working on that.
Nice.
Keep working on that.
Thanks, Vic.
All right, on, brother. So everybody out there, hope you have a great week. And we'll try to get some footage and stuff like that from Saturday to share for everybody that can't be out to Madison. And I'm excited about playing in front of humans
Yes.
again. And be like, hey, humans,
Definitely.
what's that like? I've been playing in front of
Yeah, we'll try.
I've been playing in front of a ring light for 6 months. Like I'd like to actually see some people. It feels like I'm being sucked to the Stargate.
It will be nice to see actual faces
Yes.
that aren't 2D.
Right. Be like, oh my God, that's features. That's weird. So everybody have a great week. Have an awesome Halloween.
Yes.
We will see you on the other side on Monday. And then we'll talk more then. Everybody have a lot of fun this
tuning
week.
in.
Have a weird Halloween. Dress up as your favorite stuff. And just do our best to enjoy it, right? It's not going to be the same, but
Yes.
that doesn't mean it can't be awesome. So we hope yours
It will be awesome.
is awesome too.
Cheerio.